crisis in Ukraine. Russia has begun its invasion of Ukraine, shocking the world and potentially leading to galactic-wide conflict. Collectively as one, most countries of the intergalactic community have condemned the invasion, while others have placed increasingly harsh sanctions on Russia. But this has done very little to stop the advance upon the snow-swept fields and cities of Ukraine, as the Jedi Council decides the best course of action. An unknown Jedi has taken to the skies and has allegedly shot down 6 Russian fighters, gaining the name of the Ghost of Kiev. However, the outcome of this war still hangs in the balance and is up to a brave few to decide the future of Ukraine. The galaxy is paying close attention to the outcome of this conflict.
Right, good evening all, and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a recording due to real life work and everything else. It's become ever more difficult to do these sort of streams, so I thought, well, maybe I can do recordings, maybe shorter hand versions, and have it more frequent on upload, shorter clips, maybe something like that, and sort of get back in the swing of it, because it's just difficult finding time at the moment. So I hope you all enjoyed the intro. That's an old one. That is a year old. It would come up to a year since the invasion, and I remember finding that clip do the rounds on Twitter, and thinking back to the invasion, there was a lot of sort of psyop attempts to connect it with popular culture, that whether mainly stuff like Star Wars as referenced there, but also other franchises as well. I think Star Trek was also in there. The ironic thing, though, is with Star Wars, it was you think back to what the journalists at the time when the prequels came out, it would things like the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith was interpreted by many sort of boomer cons and even boomer libs to be an anti sort of forever war message, your anti neocon message, which is quite funny given the fact that the propaganda from the outset, and from referencing the Star Wars franchises for Ukraine, for the Ukraine conflict, has been so co-opted by the neocons. So I find that quite funny. Anywho, so today I wanted to talk about the end of woke and the start of the war. And the reason I've titled this as well is the what I mean by the end of woke is I don't believe that racial anti-white identity politics is going to cease in the West. It's just the whole structures and think tanks and HR departments full of these people are going to disappear overnight. But what I've sort of been thinking of is that as time progresses with the conflict in Ukraine, and it is seen as a global endeavor, whether we like it or not, there is going to come a point where there's only so much you can ratchet up the rhetoric, and there's also the added problem that the West, the Western powers aren't. It isn't going as they had foreseen. Currently in the East, before Christmas, it was sort of a stalemate position. There wasn't much movement on either side, apart from Ukrainian advancement in south and north Ukraine. Oh, excuse me. And We recently, the Wagner Group, mercenary group, part attached to the Russian army, and the Russian army itself have captured areas around Bakhmut and around the Donbass region, which was the original purpose. Um, these are the self-declared independent region Russian republics, which is kind of how the what the original flashpoint was of the Ukrainian conflict. Though the actual start of it was the removal of the previous president in 2014 with the that color revolution in Kiev, as we call it. So one thing that's come to my attention is that there is and this has been pointed out by many, is that and I've been seeing various stats and charts been going around on Twitter, where you see the population of each European country and like the willingness to fight for the country, join up in the military in the event of a war. And Germany, as you can imagine, they've been psyoped by to hate themselves for 70 plus years now. That it's incredibly low. I think it's barely 10%. Britain, I think it was 18%. So this was like for the youth, the young people, the people who would in these events would join up, volunteer. Was 18%, again very low. And it got me thinking. People like Academic Agent and others who pointed out that one of the problems you got with the sort of woke anti-white policies is that they need the people who have been targeted to fight in their forever wars for liberal democracy. And the current climate, the current cultural climate has vilified said people who would be those defending each nation, who'd be joining up in their military. And so this is a genuine sort of belief. I do think that if you want to determine the signal of war, that war is on the table or it's going to happen, is that you'll see in the popular culture, you'll see it in film, in TV, you'll even see it on this sort of social media side, in companies, private, publicly owned. You'll see all the woke stuff, all the equality, diversity, inclusion, all the articles, white men fragility, all of that will stop and cease. And what's quite daunting about that fact is when you see, I think it's a question of when, not if, at this point. When you see that when you no longer see those articles, it most likely means, in my mind, that war is on. Because you can't have the two running it, because you need to win a war. You have to have a highly moralized population for mobilization. That's just a fact. That's just no amount of liberal technocratic psychoanalysis could change that. It's just a universal fact, and I think they know it. Tony Blair being one of the famous ones who finds it a waste of time. Even Obama, he said, what was it? It was a circular firing squad. The sensible ones in the room, no. I think even Bill Clinton said so. The sensible ones, the ones in the know that for them it's a, as Tony Blair would say, it's a dead end. It doesn't lead anywhere, and it creates more problems than it's worth. But one of the tactical advantages for them for using it, and people be saying, well, if they're against it, why is it prevalent in our societies? It's a good way of distracting the right, and to drain it of all energy, and to get them wrapped up in meaningless conversations of defining what even a woman is, which is incredible. You go back 20, 30 years, and you would tell you would tell people that the modern the discussion of the political discussion of many people on the sort of mainstream side of politics is what is a woman, what's a man. I would it's unthinkable. But maybe it's not unthinkable, actually, come to think of it. I know people predicted it, but it was predicted. So that's my take on it. So my overview take on this is, if you see the woke put away, if you see it ignored and replaced by a sense of like civic, because it'd have to be civic nationalism. It couldn't be ethnic nationalism, because that wouldn't work with the Allied narrative. It'd have to be like a civic form of nationalism, patriotism. If you see that, then that is a clear indication that war is around the corner, which is it's scary thinking about it in some regard. All the jokes and everything aside, it's not something to be considered lightly. But I mean, I think I think it's out of our control at this point. But I mean, for me personally, in my what I can do, I do is just I've got back into local politics, local even like local village life, because that's something I can have a bit of sway and control over. But on this scale, and one of the reasons I haven't streamed much is I found myself at a point where I can't. I just have nothing to talk about anymore. I'm so despondent of all the sort of low party politics. I can't really talk about it because it's just meaningless crap. So in no uncertain terms, it's meaningless. I don't even like take the recent stuff in Scotland about rapists, transsexuals in women's prisons, and you have the TERFs and the 90s feminists and the Tories and SNP all battling it out for who's the most like. Am I a modern socialist? Tranny mutilating faction, or am I the 90s feminist faction? And it's like, no, I fucking hate all of you people. All of you people have ruined this country. And so many people on the supposed centre right will follow these stories, and it's just shit they're feeding you now. I'm sorry, but it's just shit, and you kind of have to. I know it's because how ludicrous it is, but you kind of have to ignore it. I mean, if you live in Scotland, I guess maybe it's something you can't be ignored, but I just think it distracts you so much that it could actually hamper if you have any goals or dream or vision or dream. It could severely hamper that. So yeah, that's my take on the sort of Ukraine. What I think, how events will play out, and what to watch out for. I did actually put the end of this video, so I'm going to do a review of Andor because I've actually watched the Andor series in whole, but I might save that for another separate video. We shall see. Though I think it's going to be. This is about 15 minutes long, so I say that's my summary. I've got nothing else to add. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.